So today I'm delighted to welcome a very new colleague here at Prep Doctors, Dr. Lesia Waschuk. She is a compliance and education specialist, and today we're going to be covering the topic of the RCDSO. So Dr. Lesia, thanks so much for joining us today and sparing some of your valuable time. Right now it's the elections, the RCDSO Council elections in Ontario. At Prep Doctors, we've been receiving a lot of questions about what is the RCDSO, what are these elections, and how do dentists on a day-to-day basis, how do they relate to the RCDSO, and does this have a big impact on dentists practicing in Ontario?
The RCDSO is the dental regulatory authority for Ontario. So the RCDSO only regulates dentists. There are other regulatory authorities that regulate some of the other oral health professions that have status under the Regulated Health Professions Act.
So let's talk about the election specifically. What are the
Okay.
elections that are being held right now?
There's an RCDSO election going on. And the composition of the RCDSO is that the RCDSO has a council, and the council is made up of members of the profession and members of the public. And there are 12 members of the profession that are elected from districts around the province. And there are 2 members of the profession that are appointed, one each from the dental schools in Ontario. So right now, the members of the profession who are registered with the RCDSO are voting for their representatives on council. And we can talk a little bit about that later. It isn't the same as a parliamentary election. Once the dentists are elected to the council, they serve the organization. They don't represent the members of the district that voted them in. But I think it is important as an issue of fairness that there is representation from around the province.
Okay, that's interesting. So I didn't know that there was a specific representation for the district that you're.
No, it isn't. That's the point. So any dentist that's graduated from an accredited dental school will have to do board exams, after which time they're eligible for registration with the Royal College of Dental Surgeons of Ontario. Because the board exams are national, they will also be eligible for registration with other colleges in other provinces. So we have portability. If you have the National Dental Examining Board certificate, which you can achieve if you attend an accredited school and then you do the board exams, you can apply for registration in the different provinces. An internationally trained dentist will do the equivalency process, so the first 3 exams, then they'll do the board exams, and then they're eligible for registration. Their first encounter with the regulatory authority will be when they apply for registration. And I think it's really important for members of any regulated profession, whether it's a health profession or not, to understand what their requirements are for entry to practice, to continue to practice. Most regulatory authorities do provide information about how to prevent complaints, how to deal with complaints. You should know what the process is, if there were to be a complaint against you, what your responsibilities are in responding to the college. There are quality assurance programs. There are legal requirements that the colleges are responsible for enforcing, for determining, I guess. And I think knowing what the expectations are for you when you're in practice, I think are essential for any new dentist or any dentist who's been in practice for a number of years. You want to make sure to meet those requirements. And the colleges do provide information so that it's possible for you to meet those requirements. And they have staff that can answer questions about what is required of you. I was staff myself. I worked at a regulatory authority at the Royal College of Dental Surgeons of Ontario for 21 years. So I worked in the practice advisory service where I answered all sorts of questions from dentists, from newly registered dentists to dentists who are approaching retirement, dentists who are moving from other places in Canada, dentists who are moving from other countries. So there are staff that can answer any questions that dentists have about what the college asks of them.
What are the powers or responsibilities of council members? Are they, for example, able to change policy or make significant changes within the RCDSO?
So each individual counselor, in addition to sitting on council, will be on certain committees. And some committees have a large number of members. Some committees are divided into panels that have 3 members. So if an individual councillor is sitting on the Inquiries, Complaints and Reports Committee in Ontario, it might be called the Complaints Committee in a different province. If there is a complaint against a dentist, they will review all of the investigation results. I guess I'll say the findings of the investigation, and they'll make a decision about what happens in that particular case. The council as a whole will usually vote on motions. So our council has 14 professional members on it and between 9 and 11 public members. So every member has a vote, and collectively their power will be to approve programs that have been proposed by the committees. They may have a say at different stages of program development. They do have the responsibility to ask questions that they need in order to be able to vote in an informed way. They can dissent, they can recuse themselves if there's a conflict of interest on a particular topic. I mean, they have obligations as a board member to behave in certain ways that are generally accepted, and then the powers of this particular council are set out in the Regulated Health Professions Act.
So one of the questions that we often get asked is, what is the difference between the RCDSO and the ODA in this province?
The RCDSO is the regulatory authority. So they're generally responsible for registering dentists, or licensing as it's commonly called. They have to deal with public complaints. They have to have a quality assurance program. They have to set standards for the profession. The Ontario Dental Association is our provincial professional association. So they're more of their role is more advocacy for the profession. And so when it comes to lobbying the government, they would be involved in that. They will get involved in developing fee guides. They provide other member services that it really is outside the mandate of the regulatory authority to provide. So I see these two organizations as complementary. The regulatory authority has certain responsibilities, certain functions that it carries out because it's required to under the Regulated Health Professions Act. And the member association can provide other types of services. In addition to this, our regulatory authority in Ontario is unique because they also have the insurer, right? The professional liability program that administers the malpractice insurance is under the same roof as part of the same organization, which does present certain issues that need to be addressed because its role is quite different. Every regulated professional in Ontario has to have malpractice insurance. Where the dental profession is different from all the others is that it's actually the regulatory authority that collects the fees and has a department that administers the malpractice insurance and self-insures up to a certain limit. As part of its function, that professional liability program in Ontario can also provide risk management advice to dentists.
So not everybody is willing to run for council. Dentists are super busy, and not everybody has the time necessarily. If a dentist wants to get involved, but not necessarily run, how can they do that?
For dentists who don't want to run for council, who don't want to sit on the board, there are opportunities in different areas. For instance, you could apply to be on a committee as a non-council member. There is the opportunity for work at the college. So there are dentists who are on staff full-time, part-time. There are practice monitors. There are working groups that the college strikes. The college does nominate dentists to be NDEB examiners. There are, I think the very basic opportunity to be involved with the college is to exercise your right to vote. In past elections, there has been very low voter participation, and part of the initiatives that Prep Doctors has undertaken, I know, have to do with that, is voter education and to encourage voter participation. I think that's the very fundamental least that dentists should do. And in terms of the council operations, council meetings, those are open to the public. Through the pandemic, they've been delivered online. So it's so much easier. When they were in a hotel room, in a hotel conference room, there was limited space. Now, basically, anybody who wants can watch a council meeting in progress. They can read the council materials. They can ask questions of the council member from their district. Uh, they will usually be the most accessible to dentists because of the fact that they also attend meetings of the component dental societies in the district. So while the ODA and the RCDSO has a different function, that's one area where there is the possibility for communication between them. The RCDSO representative will attend the meetings of ODA component societies, and the component society members will have this access to the RCDSO representative to ask questions about what's going on at the college.
Historically speaking, how has the turnout been for these elections? And do you think it's important for Ontario dentists to vote?
I think it's essential for Ontario dentists to vote. I mean, really, what you're doing is you're protecting your right to be a regulated profession. Uh, it's a right in law. I think that the regulatory authority is certainly accountable to government. There is government oversight. They're accountable to the public because the mandate is to protect the public. But because another function of the college is to guide the profession, they set standards for us. They evaluate our performance through different programs that they have in the quality assurance area. The first influence that you have is in who you vote for. The next influence you have is in asking questions at component society meetings, or just one-on-one by email or whatever, of the people who sit on council. I wouldn't want to see us, I don't know, not know as a profession what's going on at the college. I think that if you don't get involved, then it almost isn't right to complain. And during the pandemic, there were lots of dentists who felt frustrated, perhaps, about some of the guidance that was coming out of the college. And this is their opportunity to either indicate their support for the counselors that were involved in developing that guidance, or to vote for a different person, right? I mean, it's not democracy exactly, because democracy, relates to government as opposed to our regulatory authorities, but it's the same idea, right? If you want a voice, you have to participate in the process. So it's a privilege that we have.
So thank you again, Dr. Lesia, for joining us. I have certainly learned a lot. I hope all the dentists out there did as well. Stay tuned for a lot more from Dr. Lesia on all of our channels soon. So thank you and take care.
Thank you, Uthman. It was a pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.